What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the Resistance. Give y'all a quick listen in real quick on a digital manual on how to sit tight, don't budge, and look at the judge. Real quick listen.
All rise, please. I'm sure the audience is going to get it wrong.
Can all of the parties take seats, please?
Will the jurors raise their right hands? Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and truly try the issue between the Commonwealth and the defendant based solely on the evidence presented to you? So help you God.
Thank you very much, Jim. You can have a seat. So when I talked to you this morning, and I told you about generally speaking, what the court's scheduling is for the day, or day-to-day, I should say, and I told you that we break for lunch. I think I told you this. We break for lunch from around 1 until around 2. It's around 1. So I'm going to release you for a lunch hour, okay? This is what I'm going to give you in terms of, I'm going to respectfully order you to do a couple of things, okay? The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to not discuss this case. The trial hasn't started. Obviously, you know nothing about the facts as of yet. And until this case goes to you in the deliberation room, you should not discuss the case, even amongst yourselves. Don't talk to people at home. Don't text them or call them or send emails about what you're doing. This is very important. I'll explain to you later why it's important. But for now, just understand that I'm ordering you not to discuss this case. Don't talk about the case name, the allegations, the attorney's names, the defendant's name, the witness's names. Whatever someone's asking of you, you can tell them you're seated on a jury in the Dorchester Division, that you will be released today at latest at 4:30. You might have to come back. You might not. I'll have more information on that as the day goes by today. When this case is over, you can tell anyone who's curious as to what happened in the case. But until then, please do not discuss the case. Okay, it's very important that you do that. Secondly, you've been absolutely attentive and patient with us and respectful of the court's timing and protocol. I'm going to ask you to continue to do that. We can't get started until all 7 of you are back from the lunch break. So I'm going to have you come back at 2 p.m. to the room that the officer releases you from. He'll give you all the information that you need. I can't start unless all 7 of you are present, as well as everyone else in the courtroom, but I can't start unless all 7 of the jurors are present. So thank you very much for your continued attention and respect for each other as jurors and respect for the court system. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch hour.
Would all rise? Your
We finally here, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we all been waiting for. Audio trial hearing. October 7th, the Resistance versus the Commonwealth of Assachusetts. Yeah, I said it. The Commonwealth of Assachusetts. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat real quick, but before I do that, I want to say thank you to each and every one of y'all who supported me. It's been a long 2.5 years with this case, but, you know, finally reigned victorious. We about to get into it, man. Y'all wanted it. I got it. I requested it for y'all. Y'all looking right at it. This is October 6, 2022, the first day of trial. Once again, I want to thank each and every one of y'all. Every one of y'all. If it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't have made it through this, man. All y'all support, all y'all positive comments, even the haters, man. I want to thank y'all too, because y'all just made me drive harder. Y'all made me drive harder to the hole. Y'all don't even get it. But shout outs to the Queen, Renetta Williams, all the way from Wynn, Arkansas. We got Curtis Williams, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. Shout outs to Baltimore. Be more in the house. John Denicola, Tara Harris, Mark Wunderlich, Utah in the house, my man. David Avila, Nat, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. Hit that like button and share this. We gonna be here for about, let me see, about an hour and a half, and we can take a break and I could come back later and maybe do the second day of trial, but we talk about that later. Shout out to Disnuff. What up, Disnuff? Joe Casano. Joe Casano all the way from Florida. That's my man. Wake up, America, and resist. loyal supporter. Wake up, America, and resist. We about to get into this audio hearing, man. First day of trial, October 6th. I skipped the jury selection, and I really didn't want to skip the jury selection. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that part as uploaded videos, because I'm going to have to enhance some of the audio in there, because there's low speaking amongst me, my attorney, the prosecution, the judge, as we're doing jury selection. So it would have been a lot of pauses in between. It would have been dragged out tonight, and I just wanted to keep it moving. Okay, so we just going to go head up with the trial. Shout out to Motor City Free Press, Cleve Reese. Let me know if y'all ready, man. Let me see them thumbs up in the chat. Let me know if y'all ready for this. I ain't hitting the button till y'all let me know y'all ready. Like, share, and subscribe. It's the resistance.
I'm just a picture in the frame. Pause. I paint word pictures on the canvas of life.
I'm everywhere in public.
All right. Come on, I need to see some more thumbs up. I need to know if y'all want to hear this. All right, I'm trying to see thumbs up all through the chat. All up and through the chat. I need thumbs up. We about to get into this trial. The resistance versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Y'all know the man, Scott Roby. I got Scott Roby body cam right here. Okay, we're going to play that as the trial goes. All right. I ain't going to make y'all wait too long. Tony Sweet. Shout outs to Tony Sweet. Kevin Spade. Robert Cunningham. The gang's all here. Turn my audio down. I think we ready.
Harder than it was earlier.
Yes, it's
Wow.
about 80.
Oh, so I'm gonna have to move that so I can instruct the jurors.
Let me say this, right?
Say again?
The Commonwealth is telling me that now that they have photos that they hadn't provided before. So I wanted to go over the photos with my client to see what it.
Stop right there. Got to keep y'all up to speed. So that's my attorney, Joan Curran, speaking. And this is the start of trial. And she's just been notified that the Commonwealth has provided her with photos that they said that they had, but never produced within the 2.5 years. Day of trial, they finally produced them. I told you guys that during trial, during the updates, in between breaks and everything, I told y'all that they did produce photos of a bitch ass scratch on Scott Roby's hand. It was smaller than a paper cut, just to let you know. So let's go.
Oh, so I'm gonna have to move that so I can instruct the jurors.
Let me say this, right?
Say again?
The Commonwealth is telling me that now that they have photos that they hadn't provided before. So I wanted to go over the photos with my client to see what objection he had to the various photos. So that's what's stalling us at this point while I'm not looking up.
Where are the photos from?
Thank you, Your Honor. So in reviewing my full file this morning, I realized that we did not have photographs. The mentioned photos were taken during our impanelment. They were provided to us by the sergeant who took the photographs. I did show them to my sister. I understand it's extremely last minute. So I just wanted to give her an opportunity to go over them, see if she had an objection to them being rendered. It is the first time she's seeing them, as well as myself.
Okay. Sorry, officer. Yeah, I mean,
he's apologizing to Scott Roby because Scott Roby is on the stand right now. Star witness.
Okay. Adding my respectfully.
Jurors are present, shall take seats, please.
Okay, thank you, officer. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I trust that there's nothing we need to discuss regarding my respectfully given judicial orders. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with this matter, and we remain on schedule. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, please hearken to the complaint. It is alleged that on April 25th of 2020, Mr. John McCullough was charged with the following offenses: disorderly conduct, assault and battery on a police officer, and resisting arrest. To these complaints and these charges, Mr. McCullough pleads not guilty and places himself for trial upon the country, which country you are. You have taken the oath to try the issue. If he is guilty, you shall say so. And if he is not guilty, you shall say so and no more. Member of the jury, please hearken to the evidence.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make some preliminary legal instructions to you, and I will thank you in advance for continuing to give me your attention, okay? This is a trial of a criminal case, as you already know. The defendant is charged in a complaint, as you just heard. You should clearly understand that the piece of paper called the complaint is not itself any evidence of guilt. It is merely a formal manner of accusing a person of a crime in order to bring him or her to trial. You must not draw any inference of guilt from this complaint or the fact that the defendant has been formally charged. In any criminal case, the defendant is presumed to be innocent unless he or she is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The law requires the prosecutor, whom we refer to in court terminology as the Commonwealth or the government, to prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The law does not require the defendant to prove his innocence or to produce any evidence. At the end of the trial, you must find the defendant not guilty unless the Commonwealth has proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant has committed the offenses that he is charged with. The trial will proceed in the following order. First, attorneys for the Commonwealth and the defendant will have an opportunity to present opening statements. After the Assistant District Attorney makes her opening statement for the prosecution, the defense attorney may choose to make an opening statement immediately, or may postpone doing so until later, or may even decide not to do so at all, since the burden of proof is on the Commonwealth. The opening statements of counsel are not evidence. They are somewhat like road maps from the attorneys to explain to you what they expect will lie ahead. We have opening statements to assist you to understand what the evidence is expected to be. Next, the prosecution will introduce evidence in support of the charges in the complaint. After that, the defendant may present evidence in his behalf if he wishes to do so, but he is not obliged to do so. Remember, the burden of proof is always on the Commonwealth to prove that the defendant is guilty. The law does not require any defendant to prove his or her innocence or to produce any evidence at all. After all the evidence, each side will have an opportunity to offer you arguments about what conclusions you might draw from the evidence. I again remind you the attorney's closing arguments, both attorneys' closing arguments, like their opening statements, are not evidence. We have closing arguments to assist you to understand the evidence and what each party suggests that the evidence means. Let me speak to you briefly about your role as a jury and mine as the judge in this case. My responsibility is to see that the case is tried in a way that is orderly, fair, and efficient. It is also my function to decide any questions of law that come up during the trial and to instruct you about the law that applies in this case. It is your duty to accept the law as I stated to you. Your function as the jury is to determine the facts. You are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts. You alone determine what evidence to believe, how important any evidence is that you do believe, in what conclusions all the believable evidence leads you to. You will have to consider and weigh the testimony of all the witnesses who appear before you, and you alone will determine to believe any witness and to the extent to which you believe any witness. It is part of your responsibility to resolve any conflicts in testimony that may arise during the course of the trial to determine what the truth is. Ultimately, you must determine whether or not the Commonwealth has proved the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Our system of justice depends on judges like me and jurors like you being able and willing to make careful and fair decisions. All people deserve fair and equal treatment in our system of justice, regardless of their race, national origin, religion, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, education, income level, or any other personal characteristic. You have agreed to be fair. I am sure that you want to be fair, but that is not always easy. One difficulty comes from our own built-in expectations and assumptions. They exist even if we are not aware of them, and even if we believe we do not have them. Some of you may have heard this called implicit bias, and this is what I'm referring to. Please consider these useful strategies going forward. First, slow down. Do not rush to any decisions. Hasty decisions are the most likely to reflect stereotypes or hidden biases. Second, keep an open mind. Avoid drawing conclusions until the end of the case when you and your fellow jurors deliberate. Remember that when you deliberate, you will have all the evidence and all the time you need to make a careful decision. So there's no need to start making up your mind before then. Third, you should listen closely to all the witnesses. That is the best way to ensure that you decide this case based on the evidence and the law, instead of upon unsupported assumptions. Fourth, as you listen to testimony about the people involved in this case, consider them as individuals rather than as members of a particular group. Finally, ask yourselves, would I view the evidence differently if the people were from different groups, such as different racial, ethnic, or gender identity groups? At the end of the case, I will remind you of these strategies and ask you to focus on the evidence instead of on any unsupported assumptions you may have. All we ask is that you, individually and as a group, do your best to resolve this case based upon the evidence and law without sympathy, bias, or prejudice, to the best of your ability as human beings. As I mentioned to you this morning or this afternoon before lunch, discussion is prohibited. Until this case is submitted to you after my final instructions, you must not discuss it with anyone, not even with your fellow jurors. Discussion can lead to conclusions being drawn or positions being taken prematurely. Fairness requires you to keep an open mind about everything until your deliberations. You may only consider evidence presented to you in the courtroom. You may not conduct any investigation on your own, nor may you engage in any research on the law that might apply in this case. You have been chosen precisely because you are impartial. You may not use outside electronic devices such as cell phones or computers or the internet, social media, news reports, maps, legal documentations, or dictionaries to learn things outside of what is presented here. You may not discuss this case with anyone, not even with your fellow jurors. You must not talk to anyone about this case in person, by text, cell phone, internet, email, or social media. This includes family and friends. As I mentioned, of course, you may tell anyone who's interested that you are serving on a jury in the Dorchester Division of the Boston Municipal Court, that you expect that you'll have to return tomorrow, and that tomorrow you'll likely be done at latest at 4:30. If during the trial a lawyer makes an objection, I will rule on it. It is the lawyer's responsibility to make appropriate objections, and you should not look negatively on any lawyer for doing so. If I overrule an objection, you may consider the answer. If I sustain an objection, you may not consider the answer in any way whatsoever. You are not to concern yourself with what punishment the defendant might receive if he is convicted. The duty of imposing sentence in the event of conviction rests exclusively with me as the judge, and that issue should not influence your deliberations in any way. You should weigh the evidence in this case and determine the guilt or innocence of the defendant based solely upon the evidence without any consideration of the matter of punishment. Members of the jury, try this case according to the oath which you have all taken as jurors, in which you promised that you would well and truly try the issue between the Commonwealth and the defendant according to the evidence. If you follow that oath and try the issues without prejudice or bias or sympathy, you will arrive at a true and just verdict. Thank you very much. This time I'm going to offer an opportunity for the attorneys to make opening statements, as I mentioned. Commonwealth, would you like to address the jurors at this time?
Thank you.
Okay.
On April 25th of 2020, Officer Scott Roby of the Boston Police Department, who's been an officer for 28 years with the department, was on routine patrol in the area of Blue Hill Avenue in Boston. And on that day, at approximately 12:20 in the morning, around midnight, Officer Roby conducted a traffic stop. And it was a routine traffic stop. It was a woman who had her driver's permit. She was in the front seat, and she had a backseat passenger with no one in the passenger side. So Officer Roby pulled her over, had the backseat passenger who had a license get into the front seat passenger so that she could lawfully be operating her motor vehicle. It was a routine traffic stop. Until the defendant came over around the motor vehicle with a camera. And that's when this traditional motor vehicle stop turned into something different. Members of the jury, at this point, after Officer Roby had given back this woman her license and registration and allowed her to leave, the defendant came over in front of the motor vehicle. Officer Roby noticed this and asked him, please step back on the sidewalk, all while he had the camera out and was filming the incident, the police interaction. And it's at this point where the individual, the defendant, he initially does step back onto the sidewalk. He listens, he complies and listens to the officer. Subsequently, as Officer Roby is attempting to go back to his vehicle, which he does, he goes back to his vehicle, and as the woman who was pulled over attempted to leave, the defendant walked in front of her vehicle again, around to the driver's side, and began to question her. And at this point, members of the jury, Officer Roby gets back out of his cruiser, asking the defendant to please get on the sidewalk, let this woman leave. And at this point, the defendant is not cooperative. He's combative with the officers and essentially doesn't get back on the sidewalk. And in fact, comes back towards the officer. And lucky for you, members of the jury, this is an incident that is caught on body camera, so you'll be able to see firsthand this incident play out. But after he comes back with the officer, there's a brief struggle that does ensue. It's a struggle where the defendant is seen yelling, where the officer is telling him to please stop resisting arrest, where the officer at that point is attempting to arrest him based on his behavior. And I alluded to there is body camera. Again, you'll be able to see firsthand exactly what happened in this stop. Members of the jury, there's also the defendant's video. Lucky for you, you also have this second form of video, and it's the video that the defendant filmed on the date of the incident from, I guess, his perspective, from his camera angle, approaching the motor vehicle, coming around, just trying to talk to the driver, going back onto the sidewalk, proceeding back in front of the driver. And again, you'll be able to see what happened firsthand. And I submit to you, members of the jury, that after you hear Officer Roby's testimony, and after you see these two videos, there will be enough to support a conviction for the 3 charges that the defendant is here for today. Those being assault battery on a police officer, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. And at the close of all the evidence and the presentation of the witnesses, I ask that you find the defendant guilty of these charges. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Khan, would you like to make an opening at this time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on behalf of Mr. McCullough, thank you for being here today. As the court told you, this is a criminal case. Mr. McCullough, there's 3 constitutional principles which the court has mentioned, and we'll go into detail on the closing instructions, but I'll just touch on them. When we have a criminal trial, there's 3 major constitutional principles that apply. Mr. McCullough sits there an innocent man. He is presumed to be innocent and remains innocent throughout this trial until you, the jury, determine whether he is guilty or not guilty. That stays the same the entire trial. The second principle is the burden of proof. Mr. McCullough doesn't have to prove anything. It is all in the Commonwealth's hands to prove to you that the crime is actually committed. And the third principle is the principle of the burden of proof, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, to a moral certainty that a crime occurred here, and that Mr. McCullough is responsible for that crime. But I said to you just in the opening statement here today as a prosecutor, What was the crime? What was the crime? Mr. McCullough is on the sidewalk on April 25th, exercising his right to free speech. He's videotaping an officer doing his public duty. It's not a crime. It's protected by the First Amendment. It's a little hobby Mr. McCullough has that he picked up, and he puts these videos out on YouTube. I'm not sure if he makes some money on them on the side, but he goes around during the summer or spring of April 2020, and we all know what was going on in April 2020 in the city. And he takes it upon himself to say, I'm going to watch police officers conducting their job. So he's on the sidewalk, and there's a stop of a motor vehicle. And because everybody has a cell phone these days, the police are now using body-worn cameras. Everybody has a video. Officer Scott Roby pulls up, makes the vehicle to stop, and during the course of that, Mr. McCullough walks up. He starts videoing. He starts showing people that he's videoing. He's watching it. When the officer is through and he's about to leave, Mr. McCullough says, "Y'all done here, officer? Y'all done?" No response. So he's going to talk to the woman in the car. In the car and see, if she was treated okay, how it went. That doesn't go down well with the officer. So the officer starts yelling at him to get back on the sidewalk. I don't think you'll hear one please in the video. And then all of a sudden, Mr. McCullough is arrested. That's it. He's done with it. He's tired. He's not going to put up with it. And in the course of the arrest, Officer Roby claims that Mr. McCullough resisted him and that he assaulted and battered him. You have an opportunity to see these videos. The crime of resisting arrest, the legal elements to that, when the judge gives it to you, you'll hear them. And it's not resisting. There's legal elements. You have to use force. You have to cause a tumultuous situation. You have to intend to touch the officer for an assault and battery. And you have to intend that touching to cause bodily harm, some kind of bodily harm to the officer. And all of these charges, the disorderly charge has to have good faith on the officer that he's making an arrest in good faith. And I think when you see the video, you'll see exactly what happened. There's 3 people with video there. Officer Roby's got a body-worn camera. He has a partner, somebody to watch what's going on. He has a body-worn camera. And Mr. McCullough has his YouTube video. So you'll see all 3. And I suggest you use the fact finders. It's your final decision that when you sort through what was put in front of you today, again, you'll come to the decision that it's insufficient evidence. That the Commonwealth hasn't proved their burden, and you'll come back with 3 delays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Commonwealth calling witness, please.
Thank you. Commonwealth calls Officer Scott Roby to the stand.
All right, so this is Scott Roby coming through, and you want to pay attention to the questions, and you want to pay attention to Scott Roby's answers, because he's just at one point just distributes a litany of lies throughout the courtroom. You want to pay attention to this. This is crazy. You guys know this from 2.5 years ago. You've seen the video for the longest, so just pay attention to Scott Roby and how he makes a fool out of himself in the goddamn courtroom.
Officer Scott Roby, second session. Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give today in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good afternoon, sir. Have a seat right in that chair and move yourself up forward so that everyone in the room can hear you through the microphone.
And also, one more thing before Scott Roby speaks. pay attention for those who know the video and seen the video from my footage and Scott Roby's footage and the assisting arresting officer's footage. You guys know what Scott Roby sound like. Pay attention of how the bitch comes out of him while he's on the stand in the courtroom.
And you can actually move the microphone. That's all helpful. Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Scott Roby, R-O-B-Y.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm a Boston police officer,
And how long have you been employed with the Boston Police Department?
28 years.
And during your time with the Boston Police Department, where have you been assigned?
I was assigned to District C11 for 8 years, which was in Dorchester Fields Corner area. I was in District B3, which covers Dorchester, Mattapan, for about 9 years. And I was in the gang unit for 2.5 years, as well as District 5 and District 14.
And in April of 2020, what unit were you assigned to?
I was assigned to District B3 last half from 11:45 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Okay. And again, what area of the city does that cover?
Mattapan and parts of Dorchester.
Okay. And in order to become an officer with the Boston Police Department, you have to undergo any training.
Yes.
And what was that?
6 months in the Boston Police Academy.
And could you just briefly describe that training to the jury?
Basically, it was physical fitness, academics, criminal law, con law, motor vehicle law, as well as drug identifications and weapons and training, as well as uses of force.
You hinted at being trained in motor vehicle law. Could you just describe what type of training you received in the academy and after, as it relates to motor vehicle stops?
Basically, we were trained while conducting motor vehicle stops for high priority violations, red lights and stop signs, as well as speeding, that to have a cover officer if available. But during that time of our training, we basically were one-man cars as well as two-man cars for that purpose.
And what are you trained to do when you stop a motor vehicle?
To assess the driver's information for motor vehicle violation, whether or verbal violations.
And what are you trained to do, if anything, when additional parties arrive on the scene?
To be aware and to keep them back from the motor vehicle, as to not put them in danger, as well as put the people that are inside the vehicle as well as the officers in danger.
And March or April 2020, what was kind of the state of the world at that point, if you recall?
It was during the pandemic for the coronavirus.
Okay. And during the pandemic, what additional policies or procedures did the Boston Police Department implement, if you can recall?
Basically, on April 6th, there was a curfew put into effect for the whole city as well as the state by emergency management and the governor for a 9 p.m. curfew until 6 a.m. To limit contact between the public and other individuals in the public, to try to limit the contact.
And during that time, how many motor vehicle stops were you making?
Not very many.
Okay. And why was that?
Just to limit the contact with motorists and people of the public.
Okay. And why was it important to implement this procedure?
Objection.
If he knows the answer to that, you can answer that.
Basically to stop the spread of the virus.
Okay. And on April 25th of 2020, were you working?
Yes, I was.
And what shift were you working?
I was working 11:45 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
And that was at B3?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And the area that covers Mattapan, Dorchester?
Yes.
Okay. And on that date, do you recall if you were with a partner or if you were alone?
I was by myself.
Okay. And what kind of cruiser, if any, were you in?
I was in a marked Boston Police Cruiser, Ford Explorer.
And can you just describe that, what that vehicle looks like?
It's a four-door SUV, white with blue lettering on the side. It says Boston Police, as well as lights on top of the roof and around the sides.
Okay. And what were your responsibilities during that shift on that date, if you recall?
Actually, I worked at double that day. I believe I worked from 4 p.m. to 11:45, and I was going back out to go get some information for a report that I had from earlier of a sudden death.
And around 12:20, just after midnight, do you recall making a motor vehicle stop?
Yes.
And why did you make that stop?
The vehicle was in the right lane to turn right and turn left, and went back into the middle oncoming lane and into the traffic and almost struck another vehicle.
And what did you do as a result after seeing that?
I proceeded to activate my lights, and I pulled the vehicle over at Ansel and Blue Ave.
And how many people, if you can recall, were inside that motor vehicle?
I believe there was 3.
And what was the demeanor, if you can recall, of those 3 individuals inside the motor vehicle?
They were very cooperative. They gave me a learner's permit, and a operator that was in the back seat gave me her driver's license.
And the learner's permit was from the driver?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened next, if anything?
I explained to them that the female wouldn't be able to operate after 1 a.m. That on the learner's permit that she would have to, and that the operator or the person with the driver's license would have to switch places and get into the front seat because she had to be beside the occupant with the permit.
And what happened next?
They proceeded to switch, and as I went back to the cruiser to render information and to write a citation, I believe I ran the driver's information as well as the person who was in the back seat that had the driver's license. And then I proceeded back to the car after writing a warning to them for the lane change.
And what happened after that?
As I was walking back to my cruiser, the defendant walked up to them and was recording them, stepped off the sidewalk, went in front of their vehicle, stopped them as they were getting ready to turn out into traffic.
Okay, so you stated an individual, you observed them walking in front of the motor vehicle. What exactly did that person look like?
He had on I believe a gray ski type jacket, as well as he had a cell phone with the extended carrier in his arm.
And do you see that individual in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point them out, identifying them with an article of clothing?
Yes, he's seated right there. His name is, he has on a gray, white, and blue checkered shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
Thank you. So you stated that you saw the defendant. Where exactly did he come from?
I'm not sure where he came from. I believe from the side of the road somewhere.
And when you first saw him, where exactly was he in relation to the motor vehicle you just stopped?
He was beside the motor vehicle on the sidewalk to the right of the motor vehicle.
Do you recall how close?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. And Why were you drawn to him?
Just because he walked up and he had something in his hands while I was conducting a traffic stop.
So I gotta pause that right there real quick. I'm not trying to interrupt because it's very lengthy, but right there, he says that he was drawn to me because I had something in my hand. And if you notice right here, he's not paying attention to me. And I'm gonna tell you why he's not paying attention to me, because he knows who I am. I have him in previous footage in a video of him telling me to get out the street. Same thing he told me this night. So this is one of the most blatant lies that he told throughout his testimony right here, that he was drawn to me because I had something in my hand. And the reason why he said that is because they were relying on my footage getting dismissed and going off the buttermilk narrative and the officer's body cam. Let's continue.
And what happened next?
As I walked back to my vehicle after giving them the citation and explaining to them what the curfew was for her learner's permit, Mr. McCullum walked out into the street in front of the vehicle with his video camera and started videoing them and asking them questions.
And at this point, what was the operator attempting to do, if you recall?
She had her turn signal on to turn back into the lane because we were taking up one lane of traffic and he was taking up the second lane of traffic.
And at that point, was your interaction with her done?
Yes.
Okay. And was she able to leave at that point?
Yes.
And was she able to physically move her car at that point, I guess you should say?
No, she waited until I got out of the vehicle and told Mr. McCullum to get back on the sidewalk.
Okay. And did he initially comply, if you can recall?
No, he did not.
Okay. And what was his demeanor during this interaction?
He was confrontational with me and kept talking to the occupants of the vehicle as they were trying to turn out into traffic.
Okay. And then what happened?
I walked towards him and told him to get back on the sidewalk, or he was going to get out of the lane of traffic as he was obstructing the traffic. And he moved over to the front of the motor vehicle and then off to the right as the vehicle pulled away.
And after he moved off to the right, where exactly did he go to?
At that point, he walked up behind me as I was walking back to the cruiser and kept recording and coming up to the front of my police cruiser.
And how close was he to the operator of the motor vehicle during that first interaction with her, if you recall?
Probably about a foot away from her window, driver's side window.
And why was that concerning to you?
Just because of the pandemic, and it was 12:22 in the evening. So there was concern about the coronavirus at that point, about with the curfew in effect.
Okay. And you stated that he then also came up to you. How close did he get to you, if you recall?
He was probably about maybe 3-4 feet behind me.
Okay. And what did you do next?
I told him to go back up onto the sidewalk that I already had told him before to stay on the sidewalk and to step away. And he refused until I turned around and started walking towards him. That's when he started backing up and backed his way up onto the sidewalk as I told him that he was going to be placed under arrest.
And prior to him backing up, what was his demeanor like at that point?
He was just yelling something about my badge number and my name and my badge number, and that I'm required to give it to him. And I kept telling him that to put his hands behind his back and that he was going to be placed under arrest. And then he said, "What did I do? What did I do?" And I told him he was going to be placed under arrest for disorderly conduct, at which time he pulled away from me and scratched my left finger on my hand.
And so you stated that after he came and my apologies, just trying to break it down a little. After he came after you, you then approached him to effectuate an arrest for disorder of the conduct, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and where exactly did that occur?
Right in front of my police cruiser.
Okay, and you stated that he scratched you, correct?
Yes.
Where exactly was that?
My left finger.
And do you recall what that injury looked like?
It was just a small cut, I believe, from his fingernail on my left finger.
Your Honor, if we may approach sidebar.
Sidebar, yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I think it's either all of them incoming or I think we want two to come in, but it's my position. If two of them are coming in, they all should be able to come in. I understand that we just spoken to you. I have no problem not introducing them, but if I'm not introducing them, I would just ask them none of them be allowed in. Well, I think it's an overwhelming amount of water.
How many are there? I'm trying to get in.
There's two of the kind. There's one of his eye that shows. He has the intestine, right? Yeah, well, that shows. One that has been discharged. He has red eye. It's not the fault of the defendant, just something that came out.
How many photos? Let's talk to the queen.
To the dot on his finger, we want to introduce. I want the phone and the problem I have is.
Well, you can offer that photograph. Do you have the photograph now? Do you have the photograph?
I don't have any of them.
You don't have the photograph at the table?
No.
All right, so on cross-examination, you can move to offer the photograph into evidence. You can object to that photograph? All right. So it sounds like all photographs are coming in. All right.
Well, there's a lot of photographs.
You said 6.
You said all.
Well, I thought we're talking about 6.
Out of the group, and you want to introduce two pets. An eye. 2 pets and an eye. A photo of him. And his own.
That's 6. Okay, next question. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I feel obligated to tell you that this heat is crushing to me personally, and I've tried to do what I could to get facilities to help us out. It just didn't work. I think because the changing of the seasons, they cranked the heat on October 1st, and if there's a 70-degree day on October 1st, we're stuck with it. I needed to say that out loud so you don't think that.
It was 100 degrees in there, both days.
All right, officer, my apologies. So you mentioned that you had a cut to your hand, correct?
My left finger, yes.
Left finger. Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
Officer, I'm placing one photograph in front of you. If you could just take a peek at it and look at me. What is that?
That's my picture of my hand that the sergeant took a picture of.
And what specifically is that photograph of?
My left finger where the cut is on my ring finger.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the cut that you received on April 25th, 2005?
Fairly, yes.
Your Honor, this is my comment with the exhibit 3.
Okay, you have 2?
I do, I have a second.
All right.
I'm placing a second photograph in front of me, if you could just look at that.
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
The same photo, different photograph, but in a different angle of the same cut on my left ring finger.
From the injuries that you sustained on April 25th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate representation of the injury?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move to admit this as exhibit 4.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
All right. Exhibits 4 and 5, right, Madam Clerk?
3 and 4, Judge.
Oh, okay.
Exhibits 3 and 4.
Thank you. And if I could publish this to the jury.
Okay. Thank you, officer, for helping us out with that, Officer Pollard.
Say that injury. Your finger. Officer, you stated that you received an injury to your hand or to your finger. What force was used, if you could feel?
What's the objection? You can rephrase the question.
What amount
Objection
of force
sustained.
was used for you to sustain that injury? Same objection.
Rephrase that question. That's sustained.
How much force did you feel on your hand when you sustained that injury?
Probably about maybe like 5 pounds of pressure from his fingernail pressing into my finger.
And did you receive any other injuries as a result of this arrest?
I also had OC spray that was in my hand and went off to the side. I had it in my left eye.
And when did the OC spray get discharged?
As Mr. McCullum was pulling away from me while I was trying to place the handcuffs on him.
And where specifically was that OC spray?
It was in my left hand.
And why was it in your hand?
Because he was resisting and he kept backing up and pulling away and trying to fight me, not wanting to be placed under arrest.
And did you discharge that spray?
I believe it discharged to the left of me spontaneously when he grabbed my finger and my hand. He was trying to grab his cell phone.
And so where did the OC spray get discharged to?
I believe the left side of myself, my jacket, and the left side of his sleeve.
Okay. And what injuries did you specifically receive from that OC spray being discharged?
Just redness around my eye from when I moved my hand up to grab his hand and my jacket rubbed up against my face.
Okay.
Officer, please hand out a photograph. If you could just look at it and take the move it up. You recognize that?
Yes.
What is that photograph of?
That was the picture from that night that Sergeant Brooks took of the irritation around my left eye.
And where was the photograph taken?
At District B3.
And is that where all the photographs were taken?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate representation of what your eye looked after this incident occurred?
Yes.
At this time, I would leave this as almost exhibit 5.
Any objection? Okay.
Exhibit 5.
I would just ask to publish that to the jury.
Thank you, Officer P. Me too.
Now, officer, after that OC spray was discharged, what happened?
I was assisted by, I believe, Officer Wood, who was also present during a traffic stop and incident with Mr. McCullum as he came back to where we were located, and when I was placing him under arrest and to get him under control and to place him into handcuffs.
And how specifically did he assist in the arrest?
Just by gaining control over one of his arms.
Okay. And what happened next, if you recall?
He was brought over to the cruiser to be placed into the back of the cruiser, and he refused to get in. He was pushing back and was yelling and wanted his phone back. I went and picked up his phone off the ground and was bringing it back. And as Officer Wood was getting him into the back of the cruiser, he grabbed the cell phone out of my hand and put it behind him inside the cruiser and sat on it.
And what was his demeanor like during this transport into the cruiser?
He was very confrontational, very, very vocal about swearing at us and yelling at us about what had transpired and that he wasn't, why he was being placed under arrest.
And you stated that he wanted his phone back. At what point was his phone taken, or where did his phone go?
No, it was on the ground right beside, right where he was placed into handcuffs.
And do you recall how it got there?
I don't. I remember it was on his little. He had like a device that holds the phone, and I believe that fell, and it was on that device.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may continue to approach this witness.
I think another photograph in front of the officer. If you could just review that, and we'll have the name when you're done. What is that a photograph of?
I believe Mr. McCullum's cell phone.
And do you recall seeing that cell phone on April 20th, 2009?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate representation of what it looked like following the incident?
I'm sure it is. They took a picture of it.
And did you have an opportunity to see the phone prior to the arrest or incident occurring?
No, I did not.
But it's fair and accurate representation of after.
Yes.
All right, we move to admit this as Commonwealth Exhibit 6.
Any objection? Okay. Exhibit number 6, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
I just asked the television hearing. Back a little bit to when you arrested Mr. McCullough. And what did you do in order to effectuate the arrest?
Excuse me?
So you stated you arrested Mr. McCullough, correct?
Yes.
In front of your cruiser.
It was towards the sidewalk. He had left the front of my cruiser and was backing away when I told him he was going to be placed under arrest.
And why was he placed under arrest at that point?
For disorderly conduct. He was being in the street after I told him several times, as well as the curfew violation is a part of the disorderly conduct too.
And how did he react to you attempting to effectuate that arrest?
Like I said, he was backing away, pulling his hands away from me and trying to pull back and get on the sidewalk.
Okay, and what happened after that?
He was, I believe, placed under arrest by myself and Officer Woods.
And at what point did he make contact grabbing at you?
When he first pulled away, when he first grabbed my hand and was pulling away from me.
Okay. On that evening, were you wearing body camera?
Yes, I was.
And what is body camera?
It's the department's issued Axon body camera that police officers wear to record incidents of this nature and as others interactions with the public.
And why do you wear body camera?
It's for accountability and transparency.
And
Accountability and transparency.
where specifically do you wear
It's usually on the front of my vest, right in front.
it? And what does that video capture?
It usually captures pretty much from the head up, and if depending on how far away we were during that evening, we were supposed to be remaining 6 feet from everybody because of the virus and because of the pandemic. But I had to affect the arrest, so I would have had to be closer to him.
And so you were wearing body camera on April 25th, 2020?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, at this point, may I approach the meeting clerk?
Okay.
Madam Clerk, Exhibit 1. Thank you.
Well, we need to put it for the jurors to view it, okay? It doesn't matter about me. And for Mr. McCullough to be able to see. He can always move to the table over there if he needs to with Attorney Cullen.
So now they're about to present video. And the first video that they present is my video. They call themselves using my video against me.
And just stopping at the 7s, it's just a steering wheel. But do you recognize this video?
Yes.
And what is shown in this video at this point right now?
This is when I was in the cruiser, just with just practicing that.
And is this the body camera you were wearing on April 25th, 2020?
Sorry about that. Make a correction. It wasn't my video that they showed. It was his body cam video that they showed first.
Yes.
And how do you know that?
It has it up in the top corner of my Axon body camera too. We have to.
He moved to another side of the courtroom to view the footage, so his voice is distant. So apologize about that in advance. You might not hear everything that he says.
Presuming just gonna stop at 1 minute and 9 seconds. Officer, what street are you on?
Lula,
And how do you recognize the street?
by the by.
And this is your representation of the street you pulled over that motor vehicle on?
Yes.
I'm just going to, for the record, ask whoever's speaking, just to keep your voice up because neither of you are at microphones any longer since you're in front of the jury. So just for the preservation of the record, just speak up. Thank you.
Presuming at 1 minute and 9 seconds.
What's going on with your license? Did you just get your license?
I just get it.
Sorry?
She was teaching me how to drive. My mom was down the street, so that's what we did. She has the license.
You're supposed to be in the front seat. Yeah, you guys. Well, you guys, seatbelt on.
Pausing at 1 minute and 50 seconds. Officer, who was in this video?
One of the operators that were operating a motor vehicle at that on the particular time.
And how many people were inside that motor vehicle?
I believe 3.
And at what point in the video were you watching?
I believe this is when I was giving her back her license and her Permit,
after the stop.
yes.
Resuming at 1:50.
You guys gotta switch up. She's subject to arrest right now. No. You can drive, but she has to be in the front seat.
Pausing at 2 minutes, 16 seconds. It appears there's someone else on the other side of the motor vehicle at this point. Who is that?
I can't remember.
I'll resume play.
You guys need to put your seatbelts on.
Are you able to tell now?
I believe it's Officer Wood and I believe John McCullough.
So that was paused at 2 minutes, 28 seconds. So who is in the shot now?
He's actually blocked by the motor vehicle, so I believe Officer Woods is in the shop.
And where's exactly in the shot are they?
On the sidewalk on the passenger side of the motor vehicle.
Okay, resuming play.
Your license, and the registration. Here's your license. Right. When you have a learner's permit, the person that has a license is supposed to be beside you. Alright? And your permit is good after 1 a.m. You understand that you can't drive after 1 a.m. Okay. What you're saying was a marked lane violation because you were in the right-hand lane and you go to the left. And that lane is a bike lane. It's not supposed to be driving. See right here? See how they have it marked up?
Yeah, but what I was trying to tell you was I was gonna turn when we changed our mind, so that's why I ended up going in front of you.
I know, but you still can't drive. You can't turn from that lane.
I am telling you,
You have to
learn
stay
how to
from
drive.
I understand, and that's why I'm explaining it to you. Okay, listen, it was in $105 for the marked lane. Your speed was 40 and a 25. The whole city is 25 miles an hour. Okay, I gave you a warning for that as well. All right, you would have been $305. All right, I gave you a warning.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Pausing at 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Who is in the frame or what do we see?
You can see John standing towards the front of the motor vehicle, waving and his arm and his camera.
And where specifically are you in relation to the motor vehicle?
I'm in the lane of travel on the driver's side.
And at this point, where physically is he?
He's towards the front passenger side.
Resuming play.
And that would have went on your license. Okay? That would have went on your license for the citation.
Pausing at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Officer, what did we just see?
Just me going back to the cruiser and the defendant walking into the street in front of the motor vehicle.
And why did you get back in your cruiser at this point?
The traffic stop was over.
Okay. And what were you intending on doing at this point?
Proceeding to where I was going from the original stop.
Okay. Resuming play at 4:14.
Step out of the street. Step out of the street.
Pausing at 4 minutes and 25 seconds. What did we just see?
The defendant in the street in the lane of traffic as the motor vehicle was driving by.
And what did you do?
I stepped back out of the cruiser and told him to step out of the street and to go onto the sidewalk.
And why did you tell him to do that?
because he was blocking the vehicle. You can see that everything goes on for it to turn out.
Okay. And where exactly is the motor vehicle you had just pulled over at this point?
It was still in the second lane of traffic to the right.
Okay. Resume play.
Step out of the street. Step out of the street. I'm gonna lock you on traffic. Step out of the street. You just tell me, you just tell me, name the badge, officer. Right. Yes. Chapter 48, section 98, name the badge. Step out of the street.
Stopping at 4 minutes and 43 seconds. What did we just see in that short 10-second clip?
The defendant walking back from the motor vehicle and the motor vehicle pulling off and him walking back towards the front of my police cruiser.
And what was he saying?
Asking for my name and badge number and quoting the article and section of Master Law.
And where is he at this point?
He's towards the front of my passenger side of the cruiser.
Okay. Resume play. All right, I'm going to pause here at 5 minutes and 13 seconds. What did we just see in the last 20 seconds?
Me telling him that he was going to be placed under arrest and telling him to put his hands behind his back.
And why was he placed under arrest at that point?
At that point, for the disorderly conduct and for obstructing me as I was conducting my police business.
And where exactly was this arrest executed?
Right at Ansel and Little Ave.
Okay. And where on the street was it affected?
On the sidewalk, right next to where my police cruiser was and where he backed into.
What would you describe his demeanor like at this point?
He was resistant. He was pulling away from me, and after he had already grabbed my hand and put his fingernail into my hand.
And that was during this arrest?
Yes.
Okay. Resuming play.
What's all about this for? I already told you. What's this crazy with it? What does this crazy with, bro? He's pretty with. Yes, you did. Bro, I didn't even do anything. What are you locking me up for? What's the charge? What's the charge? What's the charge? Already told you. Before I get my kid off the grass, please. Can I get my phone? Don't drive in. Can I talk? Can I get my phone off the ground? I got your phone. Can you give me my phone, please? What the rest do? Give me my phone. Yeah. Give me my phone. Can you give me my phone, please?
Stopping at 6 minutes and 4 seconds. So you hear the defendant saying he wants his phone. When would you typically give someone items back after an arrest?
At booking.
Okay. And where at his point was the phone?
He grabbed it out of my hand.
And prior to it being in your hand, where was it?
On the ground.
Okay. And who else is in the video? Just clarify with you.
I believe police officer Woods.
Okay. And I'll just play the rest of the video. The remaining 18 seconds.
Please give me my phone. That's my property. That's my property first. I
And we just saw the body camera end. Why did it end here?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And why, if you know, was the defendant screaming?
He had his phone and he was recording the whole time. So He started screaming again when he gets back to the station.
Objection.
Yelling back.
What's the objection?
He's not answering the question. He's going back to the station.
All right. Okay, what's the next question?
Next question. What would you describe his demeanor like during this arrest?
He was out of control.
In terms of demeanor?
Speaks for itself.
Overruled.
He was out of control at that point.
And how many arrests have you made?
Hundreds.
And how do those arrests usually go?
Depends.
Objection.
Sustained. Next question.
And what else do you recall happening during this transport?
He was sitting on his cell phone in the back, and was yelling all the way back to the station that he was.
Objection.
Hold on 1 second. Do you need him to stand up anymore? Could Kate resume the seat, or what's happening next?
There is a
I just
second
wanna
video, so while he's standing, perhaps we can
Okay.
jump to that.
All right.
I'm approaching the media cart, second video.
Martha, that's exhibit number 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Officer, you mentioned earlier the defendant was filming, and we could also see he was filming, correct?
Yes.
And again, what was he filming with?
His cell phone and arm carrier.
And do you know why he was filming?
Yes, he stated that he was filming for YouTube as the resistance.
And what is the resistance?
Objection.
Can I talk to the lawyer at the sidebar, please? Officer Paul, this might be a good time to tell the jurors what you tell us all the time. Okay, what's this question?
So he has a YouTube channel which was listed when counsel's opening. Just have him describe to his knowledge what he knows about the YouTube account and recording.
Well, first of all, what's the relevance?
That the video came from his YouTube account. He was filming it for.
I think that's clear. I mean, I think you're getting into that my client knows that unless we're supposed to, went into an investigation. Yes.
So the objection is sustained, okay? Next question.
Joe, the news arrest, I guess he explained it to one of the other officers that he has.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So let's the lawyers stay right here a second. I'll let you go. I'll let you take the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a brief afternoon recess, okay? Thank you very much for your attention. Continue to keep in mind, I'll go over here and see everybody. Continue to keep in mind when I ask you really about not speaking about the case to each other or to others while you're on break, okay? Thank you, officer.
Court all right, the jurors exit the jurors this way, follow me, please.
All right, so we just took a break, took a recess for lunch, and I'm just going to fast forward it to the continuance of the trial. This is still day 1, October 6, 2022.
Thank you.
All right, I just said, so all right, I just said,
Question?
Thank you, Your Honor. Approaching the media cart with exhibit 2.
Okay.
Pause it 2 seconds. Officer, what's in this initial shot?
I believe myself and Officer Wood conducting a traffic stop.
Does this look like a traffic stop from April 25th, 2020?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
You done, your officer? Are you done? Was he talking that nicely to y'all before I pulled up? Not really, right? Yeah, I know this dude. He's an asshole. This was for y'all safety. I pulled up too late. But y'all check me out on YouTube. Boston Artists, The Resistance. I'm not obstructing traffic. I'm not obstructing traffic. I'm not obstructing traffic. How you gonna lie to me?
Pausing at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So, officer, you're asking the defendant to step out of the street. Why?
Because he's in the middle of the street on the driver's side during a traffic stop, blocking the lane of traffic.
And were there other motor vehicles on the road at this point?
Yes.
And it was early in the morning. Do you recall how many?
No, I believe one passes by right as he walks out into the street.
Okay. And so you asked Mr. McCullough to step out of the street, correct?
Yes.
Can you just describe what we saw after you requested that?
He said he wasn't in the street. He wasn't blocking anything.
Resuming by 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
In the badge, officer. Section, chapter 48, section 98B, name the badge. You are required.
Pausing at 2 minutes, 27 seconds. What did we just say?
Me advising him again to step out of the street as he was towards the passenger side in the front of my cruiser.
And was he compliant?
He wasn't until I started going towards him.
And what steps did you take at this point?
I told him to put his hands behind his back and told him that he was going to be placed under arrest.
And why was there an arrest?
At that point, for disorderly conduct.
Resuming by. Pausing at 2 minutes, 50 seconds. How would you describe this arrest?
Very confrontational.
And how would you describe the defendant's demeanor at this point?
At that point, he was resisting, pulling his hands back and out of control at that point.
And at what point were you scratched by the defendant?
Just prior to me going back towards him, getting him back up onto the sidewalk when he reached down.
And why, when he reached down where?
Towards my left hand when I was trying to get his hand under control and to place him under arrest.
And
Sure, take your time.
What y'all locking me up for? What you trading with, bro? What you trading with? I'm trading with. Bro, what you trading with? What are you trading with, bro? Yes, you did. Bro, I didn't even do anything. What are you locking me up for? What's the charge? What's the charge? What's the charge? Can I get my hand off the ground, please? Can I get my phone off already? Can I get my...
Pause at 3 minutes, 29 seconds. What did we just do last?
Just his phone on the ground and me picking it up.
I think we're all set. If the officer can approach. So, officer, subsequently you transported Mr. McCall, correct?
Yes.
And who booked him?
One of the other officers.
And do you recall if you were present at booking?
I was not.
Okay. So you didn't have any interactions with Mr. McCall at the station?
Yes, when we first brought him in, he wouldn't go into the station. He was fighting us and yelling that we're trying to kill him, and the EMS people, their bay is right next to ours, and was out. One of the EMS EMTs were outside and was trying to calm him down and asked if he needed any assistance, and he said no.
And why did they ask him if he needed any assistance?
Because he was screaming and yelling that they're trying to kill me.
And at that point, was he still in handcuffs?
Yes.
And what else happened at that point, if you recall?
Overruled.
He kept yelling and he was spitting in both officers' direction as we were at the wagon bay door. At that time, I pulled his hood over his head and told him to stop spitting and brought him inside to the booking area.
And where exactly was he spitting?
I believe towards the other officer that was on the right. And when he turned around, he was spitting in my direction. That's when I pulled his hood up over his head.
Okay. And how, you said he was fighting. How would you describe that more in detail? What he was actually doing?
He was just pushing himself up against the barrier and the door and holding himself there to try to resist and not go into the Bay Area.
Can we just have one moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
What else, if anything, significant do you recall at the station?
Just a
Objection? It's just a wide open question. What do you recall at the station? We're at the point.
Like what happened next?
At the station, I just don't think it's relevant.
Rephrase that question.
What happened next?
Okay, he as we got him inside, he dropped to the floor and with all his weight and held himself down on the floor. And as he pulled his phone and then was placing it underneath him.
And where specifically was he when this was happening?
Inside the holding area next to the gates.
And why was that significant to you?
That's a stain in that phone.
And what steps did you take next, Benny? What steps did the officer take next, if any?
Myself and then another officer that was in the booking area assisted with getting him up to the booking desk and having the EMTs talk to him to see if he had any injuries or needed to be cleaned out from the OC spray.
And what injuries did you observe on him, if any?
None.
And did EMS treat him?
No, he refused any EMS treatment.
And why was that, do you know?
I don't. It was his decision that he refused to talk to the EMTs.
Okay. What else happened, if anything?
Sergeant Brooks took photographs of him at the booking area, his hands and his arms and his face, as well as my hands, my arms, and my face.
And why were those photographs taken?
For evidence.
Nothing further.
Cross-examination. Yes. What?
The video from the officer who was on it, and he can authenticate it.
Okay.
But I don't have it. But I don't have it on.
Sure. What do you mean? Like he can see it? You did? How did they show it?
Yeah, you could see that.
Alright.
And I have no objection or any issues.
Is there anything she can put on the meeting? You can't put that on the meeting? Oh, you can't?
Oh, well, you put it on the card. I didn't touch the meeting.
No. Come to 1 to 2 days. We remain on schedule. The temperature in this room is debilitating, so I'm going to presume that you're all not comfortable either. We're not going to finish today. Anyway, I told you ahead of time that it was between 1 to 3 days, and I said more like 1 to 2 days, and here we are, 1 to 2 days. We remain on schedule, so tomorrow will be your last day on this trial. I'm going to also you can be released from the stand, knowing that cross-examination is tomorrow, 9 a.m. And once you get by, I'll address the jurors. Thank you.
Y'all ready for that cross-examination? I told y'all this is the night we was waiting for. But I gotta take a break. It's a part 2 to this, which is cross-examination. The time is now 10:12 Eastern Time, Boston, Massachusetts. I will resume this at 11:15, between 11:15 and 11:30 p.m. Part 2 cross-examination. If y'all want to hear what happened, y'all be here. Y'all will be here. So I'm pretty sure y'all gonna show up. And if you don't, then you catch it on the back end. Got a few things to do. Gotta run an errand. I'll be right back. 11:15, 11:30. We'll be back. Part 2, cross-examination. The resistance versus the Commonwealth of Assachusetts. Star witness Scott Roby, the defendant, the resistance, never took the stand. This is a digital manual of how to sit tight, don't budge, and look straight at the judge. The It's the resistance. Shout outs to everybody who joined us for part one. This is the conclusion of part one. Continuation coming up in a little bit. Part two, cross-examination. John Denicola, Mom's Wholesome Warehouse. Wake Up America, resist. Perfect Sense is free to stay. Joe Casano, Yum. Tara Harris, Rusty. Appreciate y'all. The Queen, Renetta Williams, all the way from Wynn, Arkansas. Kenny Powers. Appreciate all of y'all. RIMC. Y'all make sure y'all hit that button. Hit that notification button. Hit it now. Gonna be coming up on y'all in about an hour 15 minutes. 11:15, 11:30 East Coast time. Shouts Ann and Mouse. Hi Malone. G Monk 003. Mark Wunderlich. Destiny Brown. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Spade. See y'all a little bit later. Hit the notification bell. Don't forget.
It's a very psychological thing that's happening here.
Hit the lights. Everybody about to get killed out here. Like it for everybody. It's the resistance.